Welcome to Shelf Help. Today we're speaking with Morgan Zanotti, founder and CEO of Whey, sparkling protein water brand with 10 grams of protein, zero sugar. Morgan co-founded Primal Kitchen, think back in 2014 or so. Her and the co-founders bootstrapped it from zero to I think 50 million or so in 3 years before eventually exiting to Kraft for around 200 million or so. So now she's back in the arena building brand number two. A lot of great experience and super excited to dive into it. Morgan, just first off, for the listeners that may be not as familiar with Whey, we'll love to start off just getting a quick lay of the land, just in terms of kind of the origin story, the why behind the brand, and core products in the lineup, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for having me. God, I'm just a millennial mom of three boys trying to get my 100 grams of protein a day and finding that, like many other moms, we're like lucky if we're eating 2 meals a day. So I had all the chomps in the purse and the whole thing. And one day I was drinking a sparkling water and I had learned about clear whey protein isolate. And I was like, how does this ingredient exist? And I didn't know about it. I like personally and professionally have like lived and breathed this industry for 20 years. How does this ingredient exist? I didn't know about it. And can't someone just take this and put it in my sparkling water and like, let's just call it a day? Like I would like to be not just, buying expensive kind of dirty sock tasting, like expensive pee water, more or less. Like I feel like, there's just more these beverages could be doing for us. So big believer in protein, especially for women. I think as women, if I look at even back to my mom, I'm 42. My whole life, right? I've watched the message to women and it's been very like, okay, ladies, calories are the problem. We're doing 100, like limit your calories. And then it was like, you know what? It's fat, no fat. And then they were like, actually, it's the carbs. You got to cut the carbs. And then they were like, you know what? We're not eating it all. We need you to just intermittent fast now. If you could just cut the food altogether, that'd be great. And then protein came around and it's like the first time in my life where the message to women has been like, hey, we want you to be eating more of something. It's clinically proven, probably the most clinically studied food group in the world, right? Like there's nothing that has more data behind it than protein. And hey, by the way, you don't have to like walk around restricting food all day and you're going to feel better and be stronger. So I'm just like really here for the protein movement for the women. I think it's just important from a health perspective and also just empowering from a mindset with food perspective. So here we are. We've got whey, tastes kind of like Poppy meets a spindrift, but with 10 grams of sugar in it or 10 grams of protein. No sugar, zero sugar, 10 grams of protein. So that's
Love it.
whey. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. When we chat a few weeks back, yeah, I think you mentioned to me that you'd spent a year and a half trying to talk yourself out of launching a beverage brand, and that, I think you said like only someone insane would launch a beverage company knowing what you know.
I think like CPG is so interesting now. Like we launched Primal Kitchen in 2015. This is 11 years ago. It was a totally different world. There was no TikTok. We executed an influencer playbook very early on before there was such thing as an influencer, almost because Mark was like an OG influencer, my partner on the business. So we had all these like friends who launched paleo blogs and Instagram accounts that we just started sending free product to every quarter. And that was like there literally wasn't a term called influencer then, right? Like we were super early on that movement and it paid off. I think that's how we built the brand. And we had a great differentiated product. I think, if I step back and look at how I ended up here, I've met enough second time founders in the last 8, 9 months, people who have had like huge exits, who don't need to work again, who are like back in the ring building. Like, and I've realized like, for a while I was judging myself, like, what's wrong with you? Like, you must be like psycho. Why would you do this? It's knowing it's so hard, right? So like knowing what you know, why would you do it? And then, and then I met enough other people that are also doing hard things that have already had major success in this industry. And it's like, we're just diseased humans. We're just like sick in the head. And there's nothing more fun than building. Like, it's horrible, but it's also so fun. So, it is what it is. Like,
Yep, totally.
I'm not meant like for a boring, like I value like adventure and freedom. So it suits my personality well. It is definitely not for the faint of heart. I would actually recommend you don't do it to anyone listening. Like, I don't think this is a good idea for me or anybody else, but here we are. And I think it comes down to like, do you have something you're really like passionate about that you think you have a unique position in the marketplace? So when we launched when I started working on the product 2 years ago, there was like no other clear sparkling protein in the market. And now there's like 50 brands that have launched in the last year, but it was true innovation. And I think true innovation is like fairly hard to come by these days. Like everything's kind of been cleaned up. We've seen like, 20 years ago, you could just be organic and that would be enough. Like Annie, like look at these brands like Organic Valley, Annie's, like it was enough to just be organic. And then it was like, okay, now it has to be better for you. And now I don't even think it's enough to just be better for you. I think that's just like the expectation. Like,
Yeah,
you need to now do something for me. So we're just kind of seeing the industry evolve. And I think beverage is super challenging because it's super competitive. It's hard to stand out on shelf. There's a million different brands, but it's also like a massive TAM, like the total addressable market's like, mayonnaise might be 2 billion and sparkling water might be 40 billion, right? So you're talking about you don't need a huge percent of the consumption to flow into your business in order to have like high revenue. So I think you could have a really great idea in a $200 million category and find yourself up against a pretty hard wall when you realize like, okay, maybe there's only 13% of shoppers who want a better for you version of this. So
totally.
I was excited about the big TAM personally, and I was excited about the innovation and doing something that like hasn't been done.
You mentioned that we're entering this GLP-1 era, which obviously speaking to the choir at this point, but what did that, I don't know, category level like factor into the decision to actually launch this beverage in terms of the GLP-1 stuff, if at all?
I think we're at the tip of the iceberg on GLP-1. Like I think we talk about it so much and we're still not talking about it enough. Like I don't think we can really see. I mean, I read an article recently that was like airlines are realizing more profit because the bodies in the seats weigh less and the fuel is now taking less fuel to fly
Wow.
the bodies from point A to point B. So like the downstream effects of this are just like it's like unbelievable every area of the world it touches, right? It's kind of crazy. So, yeah, so I think that's interesting. But yeah, so I don't know. I think GLP-1 if it's done nothing else besides, whatever, reduce everybody's appetite, it has brought this mass awareness to like what we're putting in our bodies. And the emphasis seems to be around protein and fiber, which is basically protein and vegetables, which is kind of like the basis of the paleo diet and what we should really
Sure.
be eating anyway. So,
Right.
I think there's that. But I think protein, if you're not eating like a steak and a burger and eggs and whatever, like has existed largely in just thick, powdery, milky, creamy shakes that are sold to gym bros. So
Mhm.
I'm kinda like protein, but make it casual and fun and put it in a can and, like, this
Yep.
doesn't need to be so serious.
Totally. From a launch standpoint, I think you sold Whey into Whole Foods. I think it was like locally last April. I think it was, you didn't even know if you want to launch the brand yet. And, you obviously know Whole Foods very well, know the space very well. I'm sure is that part of them trusting you, but they came back and said, yeah, we'll take it nationwide in October. And I think at that point, you had no brand, no co-man, no package design, basically just the idea, maybe the formulation and the trademark, I think. For just some of those other, especially first time founders that are in that similar stage, maybe they didn't get a commitment from the retailer, but they're in that early stages and they have some sort of timeline they're trying to launch pretty quickly. Walk me through kind of what those few months actually look like between, pulling together the co-man, the brand, the packaging design, all the stuff in a pretty short timeline. Three kids under seven at the same time.
Yeah. I'm on the hunt for a co-founder. So if you know anyone, send them my way because I'm like drowning over here. No, seriously, I am actually though. But yeah, it was crazy. I like took a can actually that I'm drinking an R&D sample. Like I'm launching 2 new flavors in the fall. So I'm like drinking a
Nice.
whole can of it to get the experience first, just like tasting. But I took these silver cans for those who can't see these like plain silver cans with no packaging on it to Whole Foods. All the retailers review like each category at a certain like 1 month period. So you have, a set time of year when that buyer for your category is looking at new items. So you submit like it's very formal. You like submit your PowerPoint presentation. You have a broker who requests a meeting. You send samples if they want them. And then like 3 or 4 months later, they make their decisions on what they're bringing in. And you don't roll onto shelf for 6 to 9 to sometimes 12 months after that. It's a long process, but I had an idea and a registered trademark for the name Way. And I was like, let's just see what Whole Foods thinks. So I took it to Whole Foods. I will say I'm in like a bit of a unique situation. I have a relationship with Whole Foods. I've been
Of
selling
course.
to them for
Yeah.
12 years. They were a huge partner of ours at Primal Kitchen. David Lafferty over there, I've known for a long time. He's like a great friend and I love him. I was like, David, can you get me a meeting with the buyer? And I would love to like meet with you and show you this new thing I'm working on. So I went and met with them. No one else had presented clear protein last year to them. So I was like the
Wow.
only, they hadn't, we were early, right? Like a year ago with Whole Foods saying yes, like there wasn't really anything in market. That's what's crazy. Like there was nothing in market a year ago, hardly. Okay. We presented and they called a month later and they were like, "We'll take it nationwide in October." And then I had like 3 months to like do the branding, find a co-man, reformulate everything. It was very stressful. I spent an entire girls trip in Mexico, like going back and forth with graphic designers trying to get the package design figured out. So
Yeah,
it was stressful.
for sure.
Yeah, it's all stressful.
Was it
Yeah.
hard to find a co-packer that could do carbonated protein beverages, or was that not that hard?
It wasn't that hard because I had the right people on my team who, like, knew where to go, but I think if you didn't have someone who, like, knows beverage co-mans inside and out, it would be challenging. We've already moved into a new co-man since then, so
From a brand identity packaging design standpoint, what were the key variables that were top of mind for you as you were working at the brand identity and kind of the visual identity, all that kind of stuff?
I mean, I just knew I wanted to sell, like, fun protein to women, so I just was, like, kind of hitting that. We had, like, a version of the package design, and I was like, it's, like, looking too, like, sports," and then I was like, "I need, like, a Jane Fonda logo," and then that's how we, like, found the font for Way, and then it kinda, like, brought the whole personality to life on the can.
From a formulation standpoint, now obviously don't want to give giving away too many trade secrets, but in terms of different kind of factors, variables you were playing around with to actually get the product where it is today, where you said it's a summer routine of, I think you said a spindrift and a poppy.
I think part of the reason I didn't launch for so long was because I was like, "Oh, it doesn't, like, taste good enough, and I'm not gonna launch it if I don't, like, love it." So then I'd go back to the drawing board, and then I would be like, "Oh, do I really wanna do this beverage thing?" And I'd be distracted with, like, my EIR program with Summit, and then it was just kinda like on to the next thing. I don't know.
You had told me like the message for women of the last 40 years has been super restrictive, focus on what you can cut out. And now it's finally like protein is the thing to take more of. Like,
I mean, I think, like I said, I just feel like dieting has been just the messaging to women has just been so awful. And it is like, look, I'm just like 100 and I'm 5 feet tall, right? I'm super short. So like 5 pounds is noticeable on me. And I feel like every one of my girlfriends, not every one of them, I live in Southern California. So there's a lot of just like naturally super skinny, beautiful women here. But like it seems a lot of my friends are like, have been trying to lose 5 to 10 pounds for like 30 years, right? So like imagine how much mental energy goes to just like trying to lose 5 to 10 pounds. Then you get into like, I have 3 kids, you get into like the postpartum phase. And the way what we've been sending out, I think is just really like restrictive and awful and not healthy and not stemming from a place of like true health, which is like, enjoying my mental health, right? Like enjoying my life and not letting like some, elusive body goal like derail me. And also like feeling good, like I don't know, like yeah. So I just think protein solves a lot of that for us. It's like it's very important for like recovering from surgery. It's very important if you're pregnant. It's very important if you're aging. It's very important if you're perimenopausal or menopausal. It's very important if you're trying to like, reduce hunger hormone signals the whole day that you start your day with a lot of protein and all these things. So we
yeah.
know these things. Yeah.
How do you think about the protein arms race is maybe a good way to put it, where as this market gets more competitive, seems like, the natural progression is some brands that are going to start just saying, hey, trying to differentiate themselves. Okay, all the other competitors have 25 grams of protein. Ours has 27. Okay, then the next one comes up, it has 28 grams of protein.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a lot of brands, like if you look at Cloud Popcorn or Wild Chips or Chomps that have just like taken a more of like a eat your real food. And if you need a little like bump, we're here for you, right? Like it tastes good. It's very sessionable. It's very snackable. We're not trying to be your like protein solution. We're trying to be
Sure.
your like support person. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of more of the positioning we're taking in the marketplace.
I think you went from local Whole Foods tests in that April to nationwide pretty quickly. then Sprouts, I think, in January. Target following that. Generally, it seemed like it's been a pretty aggressive expansion from a retail standpoint. Have you been finding has been the biggest impact in terms of really driving those velocity numbers at some of those first key retailers?
I think, look, it was like a known risk to go to Target this early, but we got an opportunity to be on like a protein front racetrack end cap for like, it's a multi-month long through the summer end cap. So you're not going to repeat that opportunity next year. It's not just like, oh, do you go into the Target set this year or do you go in next year? It's like Target's leaning in on clear protein. Do you want to be one of the brands that's leaning in with them now or do you want to wait? So the verdict's still out on if that was a good decision or not. But like most of the time, Whole Foods is really partnered with us on like building the brand, and they've been an amazing partner, and they're approaching the category like different, right? They're kind of like, we picked our horse we're betting on way, and like, we're going to help you kind of build the brand. And I think Target is more like wanting to be really early on the trend, and they're leaning into with this end cap, but they've rolled out a ton of different brands. So, they're kind of going to let us all duke it out and see who the winners are, is what I think is happening. But yeah, for me, I think it's more just about like, do you have the right like buyer relationships and retail partnerships? And is it versus just like chasing doors for the sake of chasing doors? I don't need any
Yeah,
more distribution right now. Like, I think we're
sure.
good.
Yeah.
So there's that. But yeah.
Where does the brand sit? And is there a difference in terms of where you want it to sit versus does it sit in the sparkling water section, like, the functional beverage section? Is it in like the supplement section where like the protein powders are, or multiple of those? And yeah, where does it sit and where do you
Yeah,
want it to
we're
sit?
in the functional beverage set in all of the stores, so Whole Foods, but the difference is the functional beverage set is different at Target than it is at Whole Foods, for instance. So, like, Whole Foods functional beverage has, like, shelf-stable RTD proteins like Orgain and OWYN and Slate Milk, and it also has energy, and it has, like, high OWYN Trip, so it's kind of this mishmash. And then Sprouts has a lot of the similar maybe type of brands, more like RTD protein, etcetera. Functional beverage at Target, RTD protein that's, like, over 20 grams is actually somewhere else. It's in, like, the
Okay.
OTC set. So, at Target, it's more like shelf-stable coconut water, Trip and Hio, like, the vitamin waters. It's all kind of like a random.
Okay. That's interesting. So their cutoff was like anything above 20 grams of protein goes in a different
I mean,
section, essentially.
yeah, the retailers are trying to figure out where this goes. It's an
Yeah,
interesting product in that it could probably live in 4 different places in the grocery
totally.
store.
Yeah,
Could live next to LaCroix, could live in soda, could live in protein, and it could live in functional beverage.
right.
So, yeah.
Are you thinking about D2C and Amazon and TikTok and all those e-commerce
So we're
channels?
on Amazon. We just launched on TikTok Shop, or we are launching like soon, but we've been on Amazon since like October, November. That has actually taken off. Like, I was shocked. Like, I didn't expect beverage to be so heavily shopped online. And I think then I heard someone say like Liquid Death. I remember a few years ago, they're like number one and most profitable account was Amazon. Like, Americans don't like carrying like a case of something to their car and then to their doorsteps or into their fridge. So it's like, I think people do maybe over index on beverage delivery if you're buying like 12
Interesting.
packs.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was
that's
interesting
a good
too.
point. Not wanting to carry it. I never thought about that. You mentioned about like jury still out was getting to Target that early, like, the right call or not. Like for other brands, especially with just all your experience in general, that are in their first, say, 1,000, 2,000 doors, probably some like natural channel or independents, they're evaluating when to make that jump to more conventional. Like, what signal should they be looking for that tells them they're ready?
Velocity. Just like, it just costs so much money to go into every new retailer. So just don't go until you have like really strong velocity in the accounts you're in.
Talking about Primal Kitchen experience for a second, like you guys own like 95% of the business at exit, assuming I got that right. For other founders that are trying to maintain ownership and control while scaling to, 9 figures, especially today, and maybe it's a little bit different than when you guys started, 2015 in terms of it's just more expensive and whatnot to win in the market today. But yeah, what should their playbook look like if they want to maintain as much ownership as possible?
Then if you want to maintain as much ownership as possible, you need to just get profitable from like as soon as humanly possible. Like, that's the only way you're maintaining as much ownership as possible. So I feel like CPG has become like a billionaire's game. Like, you're like, it just feels like you either need to go raise pre-revenue at some crazy valuation, like David Bar, Goodles, or Grunes or whatever, and then you've got $80 million and you better figure it out because you raised $80 million. Or you need to like scrap by and get profitable as soon as possible. I didn't do the Grunes David protein. I mean, that would have been great, but I didn't do that. I think that can also bite you in the ass more often than not. You raise it too high of a valuation, then you're doing down rounds and everybody just is over it and you end up folding the company. So I'm scrappy, like I'm not like, and I'm learning how to manage like fundraising and in having investors. And that's something like that is a mental, that's something that's hard for me because I think I went in, everybody has this like maintain ownership and you don't want investors, but like some of these brands would never have exited if they didn't have like amazing strategic investors backing them, right? So I think investors are amazing. Like I have had amazing support from people who are on my cap table who are like, let me help make introductions for your next round. Have you talked to this person? Have you thought about this? Like, so the whole experience for me has been much more pleasant than I thought it was going to be. But I think you got to be picky about like who you take money from. But in the end of the day, like I would give up. Yeah. I'm not like super hyper focused on maintaining all equity. I'm just like, can I keep the business capitalized? And, am I working with like nice people?
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the cap table, so you taking a bit of a different approach than Primal Kitchen and raising more capital here, trying to do to keep it to like friends and family and
Now, I
that's
do
gotta
not
be
have the risk tolerance of Mark, and there's no way I'm taking out a $9 million line of credit that I have a personal guarantee on. And Mark didn't really have any business doing that either when we were at Primal, but he's been an entrepreneur his whole life. I got to like reap the benefits of entrepreneurship with him, but it wasn't like I wasn't like my house wasn't on the line, right? Like that's a different level of stress and anxiety that like I just certainly could not handle at 42 with 3 kids under the age of 7. So I've raised money and will continue I'm actually raising again right now. So
oh,
I
nice.
raised money last summer before we launched and I'm raising again. I'll raise a little bit now and then hopefully get to like a bigger number of revenue and I can bring on like an institutional partner.
Sure. What does the team look right now?
We have like other people full time besides me, and some contractors.
Circling back to the Primal Kitchen stuff, so I think after that acquisition, you stayed at Kraft for like 4 years, which seems pretty
5.
long compared to the average,
I'm
and
still at Kraft. I'm still in
you
the
are still at
advisory.
Kraft. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
Now, I mean, I'm not full time, but when I'm in an advisory role. But yeah, I did stay and run the day to day for 5 years after we sold.
What
Very
did
rare.
you Yeah,
Very
it's
rare.
very rare. Like, well, I guess what did you learn about operating inside a company like that size, like the size of a Kraft Heinz that you're now applying at Way that you didn't know pre-Kraft, pre-acquisition when you were building Primal Kitchen?
Like, what did I learn being
Yeah, I
there?
guess any learnings that you've kinda gleaned from being in such a big organization.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you do professionalize the way you like look at the business a bit. Like in the $0 to $50 million pre-exit, you're like so emotionally tied to your business. It's not even like it's like an extension of your identity. It's just such a different like ride versus you've exited and now you need to like, be a professional, right? Like,
Yeah.
and this is a business and like all those things. I think I was really fortunate. The boss that I had when we were acquired, Steve Cornell, he was amazing. And I remember we had a review and he was like, what do you think you need to work on? And I was like, I think I need to like learn how to actually like put pivot tables together and like analyze the sales data. And he was like, the fuck are you talking about? He's like, that's crazy. Like, that's what analysts do. Like, and I was like, okay, I think I could be more professional. Like, I'm a hugger. I can't really put a PowerPoint deck together. I like swear in business meetings. And he was like, no, you need to keep being exactly you. Like, so I just feel very lucky to have been surrounded
That's
by people
awesome.
who are like, you keep being you and not trying to make me something I'm not. And that's, what I hope I could do for people who work for me and what I think everyone should be striving for, if nothing else, is just like at least showing up authentically as yourself.
Yeah,
If you've
totally.
done that, you've done more than what most people are doing. So
At Kraft, you in somewhat of a M&A role to a certain extent where I think you're evaluating acquisitions for Kraft in the health and wellness space. Anything that you've learned about what some of these big strategic acquirers can often get wrong when they're acquiring these emerging brands? And is there anything that you've seen some of these bigger operators can consistently miss?
well, I think it's just like two different skill sets, right? Like, I'm not the person to like run the, price elasticity test and know exactly what's going to happen and be able to forecast and all this stuff. Like it's a bit of an art and a science. Like I feel like, entrepreneurial businesses are very like art. It's more like intuitive. It's more of an art. You have a pulse on your business because it's like an extension of yourself, right? And then you get into more of a corporate, bigger environment. It just becomes more of a science. So it's like, the forecast is happening earlier. The forecast is more important. It's not almost as important as what you do in revenue, just that you hit your forecast. Like they'd almost rather have you do less in revenue and hit your forecast than do more in revenue and not hit your forecast. So it's just a different, and then it's a lot of like fighting for resources, which, the resources are constrained as an entrepreneur as well, but you at least can make quick decisions. I think in a big organization, it's a lot of like justifying people needs, justifying marketing needs. It's just a lot of resource management. Whereas that resource management in an entrepreneurial organization happens like just ongoing. It isn't like a big pre-planned, discussion. It's just happening in real time.
For founders who are maybe lucky enough to be in a position where you guys were with Primal Kitchen, where they're seriously exploring an exit, have some interest from one serious party or maybe a few, just looking back now and you've gone through that full process, what should founders kind of be keeping top of mind as they're going through this exit evaluation process?
Yeah, I mean, I think the days of like, oh, we're a hockey stick growth, but we're losing $20 million a year are kind of like over. So I think there is just, and it has been over for a while, right? Like, I think there's just a lot more emphasis on just unit economics and the viability of the business long term. I mean, we had 2 million of EBITDA and 50 million of revenue when we sold. So we weren't rolling in cash by any means, but we were at least like fiscally responsible because what's going to happen when you go to sell your business is some team of analysts is going to look at your business and say like, where are the synergies? How could we make this more profitable? And where's the growth going to come from? So you just need to be able to present a business that shows that there are either synergies or growth opportunities that warrant the purchase price, more or less. I
Yeah.
mean, it's pretty simple at the end of the day. So when we sold to Kraft, we had never done a dollar through the register at Whole Foods, or sorry, at Costco, Walmart, or Target. So we had just a ton of distribution white space available.
What have you felt like you've learned in terms of what these strategics or these bigger growth equity PE type groups are the things that are most important to them in terms of what they're looking for in an acquisition that maybe a lot of founders and operators may not actually know?
I mean, I think it's like they're so varied in their theses. So, and
Hmm.
it's all so dependent on like, there's so many variables at play. I think like the truth is it's like, it's just like marriage. Like, it's like finding a person who you want each other equally at the right time in both of your lives. So, like, you might meet a PE fund that's like, we're not interested, but the truth is like, they don't have any dry powder left and they're in the middle of raising their next fund. Or like, or there's certain funds that have a very strict thesis going in. We write $1 million checks. We only write at valuations of 10 to $12 million. We don't want to be anybody. It has to be pre-revenue or seed. Or there's people who are like, we deploy a minimum of $150 million. We want a business that has a founder owner and doesn't have a lot of PE around the table, other PE, and we're going to do a structured buyout and own 60, 70% of the business. I think there's just so many different options out there. It's all hard and it's about like finding the right people for where you're at.
When we were talking about your experience at Summit, you were talking about how you had mentioned that you had hoped that they would buy Good Culture. What was it about that Good Culture opportunity that especially got you excited about?
I mean, I think like everybody wants to buy good culture, right? Like I don't think there's any like big magic there, but or any big secret, right? I think looking at that business, there's like a great manufacturing cottage cheese is hard to do. There's not a lot of manufacturers in the United States. So there's a little bit of a moat around the product. I think they created like a great they kind of like created cottage cheese, to be quite honest. Like nobody was talking about cottage cheese and they like had a bunch of stuff go viral on TikTok and kind of like turned cottage cheese into the new cauliflower, although cauliflower
Yeah.
peaked and died a long time ago. But so I just love the brand. I love Jesse. I think the founders over there is amazing. And for what the thesis was at Summit, they were big enough. There aren't a lot of like businesses who haven't transacted that are big enough
Sure.
and could support an EBITDA multiple, right? Like most businesses, if they are big, they can't support an EBITDA multiple so anyway, it was a good fit for a brand like for a business for a PE firm that wants to buy a big company that needs
For sure.
reporting to
Nah,
their
that
multiple
totally makes sense.
pieces. Yeah.
Last question for you, Morgan. Outside of the clear protein beverage space, you obviously know CPG very well. Any particular brands in general or just categories that you're tracking?
Oh, there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. Companies, trends. I don't know. I mean, the seed oil movement's really funny because we like kicked it off in 2015, and I feel like it's having its moment now. So I think what's going on there is fun. I like that Smash company that I buy their jelly now. Like I
Mhm.
think we kind of innovated in a super just kind of sleepy category. So that's fun.
That's a great brand. It's a really good brand.
Smash is fun. Yeah. I like Sunny. I don't know if you know Sunny Snacks, but they're like
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I like them. I like that
Yeah, my wife
product.
buys those through, what's it called? Imperfect Produce Misfits here and there.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of cool stuff. Well, yeah, Morgan, this has been awesome. What's the what's the best place for people to follow along with everything that you're working on? And then what's the best place these days for people to follow along with the Whey brand as well?
Yeah, you can go buy Whey at Target, Whole Foods or Sprouts. And we're at Drink Whey, WAAY on Instagram and TikTok. And then I'm just Morgan Zanotti on social media. I don't have it on my phone, but I log in every once in a while and check it. They post from my
Cool.
account. But yeah.
Perfect.
Thanks,
Well,
Adam.
awesome. I appreciate the time. This has been awesome. I think that's the pod.